Without further ado, please welcome Meryl Poster and Will Greenfield.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Will and I decided that we weren't going to get into our credits or anything like that because it seems like people who are here know what we've done and what we do. So Will is a very prolific producer. As I'm talking to him now, I'm learning more and more. I just watched this TED Talk that you did.
God, no.
And you talked about growing up in a car, that your mom worked at Taco Bell. I mean, people always say, oh, I don't know how I'm going to break into the business. I don't have any connections. What am I going to do? Well, it doesn't seem like you had any connections. How did you have this idea to be in show business, as they call it?
Well, gosh, there are people out here that know this story. Anyways, my mom was illiterate when I was growing up because she got kicked out of high school when she was pregnant with me, and was obsessed with 80s horror, and so was taking a 5- and 6-year-old to see Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger, any B horror movie you could remember from the 80s. That's what I was going to see. And VHS came out and then made it like suddenly accessible at home, so it was a big deal. And that was kind of all we did because she, wasn't reading to me at night because she couldn't. She still can't. And I think it just kind of became a little bit of an obsession as a young child, and then as a young man and teenager. And probably when I was 12 or 13, I was like, oh, I'm going to work in movies, whatever. Obviously, TV wasn't what it is now then. And the simplest story is I got a degree in broadcasting from a state school in Kentucky, minored in theater to learn the stage managing side because that was as closest to producing as you could get. And I worked at a news station in Louisville, postal mailing resumes every single Monday morning because on Sunday nights, the Made in New York program would drop like job listings, and there was a PDF, you'd log on, it would just say like 30 Rock, SNL, and have the address, and I would just postal mail resumes. 2 years every Monday, and somebody called. And I quit my job, had $800 in the bank and a backpack, and went to Harlem, lived with some strangers in a basement apartment, and rode the subway 90 minutes one way to Brooklyn, and interned and worked 18 hours a day. And I was like, oh, I'll make it 4 to 6 weeks. And someone on that little bitty, I think the budget was like 200 grand. I don't know. And I got a job, paid gig on a reality show. So this was like 2004. So I was like, oh my God, I'm rich, And then was up there for about 7 months. Was friends with this lovely young lady who I fell in love with, who said, I'm moving to New Orleans. And I was like, well, I'll follow you to New Orleans. And then we moved here, got engaged 2 weeks before Katrina. Katrina hit, lost everything in the hurricane because I was in mid-city. We got married, we still are, we have a daughter, and everything went to Shreveport. And so there are people in here that I met in Shreveport all those years ago, and then basically just worked my ass off and hustled nonstop in Shreveport, moved back here, then Atlanta, and I've never lived in New York or LA other than that little stint in New York and doing Euphoria in LA, but that was different. HBO put us up and just kept going and going and hustling and hustling. And that's really it. I made my own contacts and my own door. I would say that it was looking at what everything is happening now and what's changing in our business, I probably had it easier, I would assume, because there was so much production and so much going on. And I entered, I don't know if any of you read Malcolm Gladwell, but one of his books, The Outliers, really focuses on timing in different decades. And I got very lucky that I really hit the business with the explosion of tax credits. And that's was really good timing too, helps. I hope that.
What was the turning point in your career when you realized you can choose which projects you wanted to pursue?
I mean, after Euphoria, for sure.
Well, going along with that, then, were you simultaneously pursuing film and television projects?
No, I've always pursued film, but Sam, we made Euphoria like a big film. There was one director, one writer, so it was 160 shoot days, same director, 8 episodes, like in a row. We did blocks, but we didn't like crossboard much, so it was shot like a big film. You know, and I haven't done TV since. I've been offered TV, I just haven't been available. You know, there are things I would do for sure, I just haven't been able to. Actually, I chased the, I try to work at home as much as I can, even though I never get to. I'm sorry, Scorsese, De Niro.
The Irishman?
No. Cape Fear. The new Cape Fear series for Apple, like I chased that and I couldn't get it, you know, so it's like you don't always get what you want, but it was at home, it was, you know, with a great cast and the shot last year, and I couldn't get that, so, but that was one I really went after that I couldn't get.
And do you know who got it? Why do you think they got it over you?
Oh,
did they have a relationship?
You find out, yeah, with the showrunner. He had worked with the showrunner before. I mean, that's the business, so like, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing in the business, and I've had that experience as well, that you work with the same people over and over and over again because there's a trust that you have with them in a shorthand. And that goes with, you know, casting directors and production designers that, you know, repeated. And have you experienced that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to work with Yorgos twice. He's not worked with any other U.S. producers twice, so I'm doing something right. It goes all the way from, I mean, to be honest, it could be the director, the studio, the PA that you want on the movie. You know, I just did this comedy for Netflix in New York, and right before that, it was like roughly a $40 million comedy. I did a very dark, like, drama that Darren Aronofsky produced that was like $7 million in Mexico. And it's a classic story. Producer friend calls up, hey, there's this young PA. She's been hustling for 2 years to meet with me through LinkedIn, but she lives in Colorado. Like, will you just meet with her? So I meet with her. She seems awesome. Obviously, anybody that's kind of from the background I am, I kind of like want to give them space. I gave her 2 days on the film. Next thing you know, she's on the whole movie, and I was like, do you want to drive to New Jersey and work on a Netflix comedy? And so she put herself up and, you know, PA'd that movie. You know what I mean? And so even from that aspect all the way up or down, it's like you just don't know, you know?
Yeah, I say that too. I mean, you should just keep saying yes, because you don't know where something's going to lead. And the most unlikely situations can happen. I was at a research screening, the dreaded research screenings. Do you have to go to those screenings?
I mean, I've been to them, yes.
The research screening, it's the worst. It's an audience fills out a survey after they watch the film, and then there's about 20 people at the focus group that they're called, and they just shit all over your film. It's the worst. It's the absolute worst.
Every now and then they like it, but every now and then.
Very rarely. Very, very rarely. And I was at a research screening deep in New Jersey, and in the focus group there was a guy talking, he was like 18, 19, 20, and he had a very heavy New Jersey accent, and it didn't sound like he was that bright because of his accent. But if you listen to him, he was, and I ended up hiring him and giving him an internship, and he grew with it, because you just, you know, you can't judge someone on certain things, and I'm really proud of that moment. But just to say that you never know what can happen. Has the success of Sinners brought you similar kind of projects? And do you work with the same directors? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, the funny thing is Sinners came out, in March, right? So.
I saw it in the movie theater. How many people saw it in the movie theater? I saw it at the Britannia Uptown. I think that film really got a lot of people out into the movie theater, which is great. Yeah, they're re-releasing it, right?
Yeah, it's weird. This coming Friday, Begonia, and that will be in movie theaters, which I've never had two at once, so it's kind of funny.
It's really weird that it's not even for Academy that they're releasing it. It's not Academy time.
I think it's just Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So which is smart.
I mean, it's funny because here, you know, to re-release a movie like that, in my day, that would never happen. There's so many movies out, and now there aren't.
Well, it was so different back then, too, because there was too much competition. You couldn't re-release and get anyone to show back up for a movie that came out 7 months ago, and now there's probably 70% less on a weekend, you know, and so people are like,
7, I think it's way more than
it's
that.
probably, yeah. So like, I would say that's why. I mean, it was always discussed. Our release date was supposed to be in March. I think it pushed to the first week of April. So I think it only moved like 3 weeks from the initial a year ago. Like we, you know, pinned the date. But what's funny is like your original question is like that movie came out in March. I was on a Paul Feig movie in New York, New Jersey. And then I was already going to do this little indie in New Mexico. And that was through a previous relationship. I also own a house outside of Santa Fe. I was like, oh my God, I can actually go to my house there, you know? And then the only thing that's really, I would say, the next film I'm doing with Luca Guadagnino was helped by Sinners, you know, something high profile. But like I said, I've just been lucky with the directors I've worked with, and Sinners, obviously. I mean, it was crazy. I've never been. I would like. It was funny. Have you watched The Studio?
Yes.
Right, like
It
so.
is so right on, dead
Right,
on. I had
so
a
dead
similar
on.
experience at the Golden Globes with
It's
producers
so-
looking to get credit.
So
Very
fucking,
similar.
So fucking perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Seth he was doing an interview and he talked about how like, you know, it can be doom and gloom on a Friday and the whole business has changed on Monday.
Correct.
Right, and it was like, that weekend was crazy. I was on the movie in New Mexico. It happened to be Good Friday. It came out on Good Friday. So I flew to my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, rented out the indie theater that I made all my friends go to when we were 16.
That's awesome, huh?
I filled every seat with my friends. They thought it was the coolest movie I'd ever done, which it is.
Uh-huh.
And it started, like, I would say on Saturday afternoon, text messages, emails. It was like I could not keep. It was like crazy from everyone you've ever met in the business that you haven't talked to in a decade. You know, and I was like, holy shit, just like all these questions, and like it was really wild. Like it was different with Euphoria because that was different because a lot of younger people, it's a television show. That was obviously crazy too. But those two, you might work a 50-year career and never get one of those, and I've gotten 2, and I can't think about it because like I don't know if it'll ever happen again, you know, but like I'm very blessed to even have one. So
What was the other one?
just Euphoria and Sinners being
Euphoria.
that's going to have like a zeitgeist cultural impact. Like it's very hard to do that, you know. It's very hard, and sometimes you don't like. Why didn't this work? Why did that work? You know.
Yes, I do know that. I did. We were making Beautiful Girls at the same time as we were making Flirting with
Great
Disaster.
movie.
It's my favorite one.
Well, they're both great movies.
Yeah, but at the time, if you would have told me that Flirting with Disaster was going to make more money than Beautiful Girls, never. I would never buy it.
No,
believe
yeah,
it.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Beautiful
never
Girl's
know.
a great movie, but it did not do well at the
You know
box
why?
office.
Because the title. Part of it is the title. So, and I learned my lesson from this. I'll teach anyone who wants to know that my bosses wanted to change the title 3 weeks or 2 weeks before we were going to open. And we were all, the filmmakers, we were like, no way, you can't change the title, you can't. We should have changed the title because Showgirls had come out not long before that, and people confused it, and Beautiful Girls was misleading, and that's the problem.
Well, did you see? It's funny you mentioned that because my wife used to be a camera assistant. I was telling her this, like, Deliver Me from Nowhere came out this past weekend. It's been marketed for fucking months as Deliver Me from Nowhere. 1 week ago, now it's Springsteen Deliver Me from Nowhere, right? Because like it was tracking poorly. And then it's like, I know what Deliver Me from Nowhere is, but my friends in the Midwest are like, what the fuck? What? Oh, this is a Springsteen movie? Like, they don't know that. And unless you like Bruce Springsteen, know the album Nebraska, or know what it's about, like, you wouldn't even know it was a Springsteen movie. So they changed the marketing on a flip, because obviously they saw like, oh, we fucked up.
Well, they thought that
You
everybody
know?
would come see Jeremy Allen White,
Yeah,
probably.
which I will, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of times the title of your project really has to be dictated by the people who are marketing and distributing it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter in many ways. It's a marketing material, and it's not necessarily reflective of your film. And I learned that the hard way. I always give that advice and say that with the title, don't get caught up with the title.
Well, it wasn't called Sinners when we were making it. That went on for, I think it was like maybe 3 months after Wrap.
Oh,
when
really?
they
What was it
told
called?
me we didn't have a title.
It was the Michael. It was the.
It was like the
Michael B. Jordan,
Ryan
Untitled.
Coogler, Michael B.
Ryan
Jordan
Coogler,
project.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he called everything said grilled cheese, which he's talked about in interviews. So like my wrap shirt says grilled cheese, and it's got like a little grilled cheese sandwich being pulled apart, which is cool. Like if you're in on the joke, but like yeah. I mean, it was never actually going to be called grilled cheese. Well, it's like when I did Django, it was super.
Oh yeah, they always change.
Super Cool Manchu 2 is what it was called.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually the movie Scream was called Scary Movie.
I remember, yeah.
That's what it was called. It was Scary Movie, and I had the Start gift said Scary Movie. Yeah. And then they changed it.
And then a different franchise with the Weinstein Company became Scary Movie.
Miramax, yeah.
Yeah, it was Miramax, right. It just wrapped like the
Dimension,
new one.
actually, yeah. So talk about, you have different roles as a producer. What do you think are your greatest skill as a producer? And how did it start? When you started producing, how has your role changed? How has it morphed?
I mean, it's also different when you do a studio movie or independent film, obviously. And
why do you want to do an independent film after getting a studio movie, if you can keep getting studio movies?
I mean, I seek them out because I feel like it keeps me grounded in terms of what I originally intended to do in the business. There's nothing wrong with studio movies. Oh, I'm being recorded, aren't I? I forgot.
No, the only thing I'm saying with the thing I'm saying about a studio movie as opposed to an independent, and I don't mean is that there's more likely chance of it going. You don't have the. It's
the mom and pop idea.
Right.
It's like if you own your own business, there's a certain freedom to that. You could be a bakery or I mean anything. It's the same basic idea. It's like if I go do a tiny independent film, it's more collaborative. Now, for instance, Ryan Coogler, that's the most collaborative studio movie I've ever done. Like it was me, Ryan, Rebecca Cho, Sev, and Zinzi, and that was really it. We ran the film. Warner Brothers came on to the movie 2 or 3 weeks in the pre-production.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It was developed outside of that?
No. I got the script of Sinners on December 23rd. I had my first Zoom with Ryan, and it went to market January 8th. I wasn't even doing the movie. I was on Zach Kreger's Weapons and had been on that for 7 months, but because of the strike and the delays, we lost Pedro Pascal, and then the movie shut. Literally, this is a true story. It's a hiatus. I was still on Weapons. I had given Ryan and his team the budget for Sinners and was helping them. I said, look, whatever, I'll help you until you find someone, when I'm on Weapons. I fly out to LA the night of the Golden Globes. It's a true story. And Pedro Pascal shows up at the Globes to present in an arm sling. He had surgery, right? So and also we'd pushed, so Weapons lost Pedro. I went to the Warner lot to soft prep Weapons at New Line on a Monday on January 8th. And then on Wednesday, I was available again because they pushed the film 6 weeks. And it was a strike, so normally I'd wait.
Yeah, 6 weeks is not that big
Yeah, but
of
it was
deal.
a strike, so I'd made no money.
Right.
And Sinners was gonna go. And the difference was Weapons was at home in Atlanta, so it was but this was here. So it wasn't that far.
Right.
And on Friday, I was on the Disney lot in Ryan's office on Sinners. And no joke, this never happened. This will never happen again. 3 weeks later, I was opening an office here. That's unheard of. Doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So it happened very quick. He wrote the script very fast. The whole process was so fast. And we started prep while the studios there was a bidding war. And,
yeah.
Yep. And then 2 weeks in, it was okay, it's going to be Warner. And then lawyers. It was before I could actually say I was Warner on paper, it took a bit, you know what I mean? So as it would. I mean, you know what I mean? To be fair, it happened a lot faster than it normally ever would because we were already in prep. We were backed in originally to actor cast dates. So it's you got to do what you got to do. But
what do you think is your you're not going to, I know you're not going to say, but what's your focus? Producers have different focus.
People. I'm good with the cast. I'm good
Picking cast?
No. Just managing all of the chaos, bringing it all together. It's funny because you think about like your life. Like I was doing this when I was 16 with my own friends. You know, just bringing everyone together, managing the cast, bridging the gap, keeping the studio off the director's ass.
How do you do that?
Being a good communicator to them, making sure they don't get curveballs, and when they are going to get a curveball, know when to present it. You just kind of get used to like, this is going to fucking freak everybody out. I need to wait a beat.
Right.
I need to wait a minute, see how this unfolds. Sometimes you have to be like, I need to break this now, and let them know we're trying to figure it out. And that's it. Good communicator, not catching them off surprise. Like if you let something go and then let it implode, it's like, you want to protect the trust. That's it. I need the actors to trust that what I'm saying to them is real. I keep it real. I'm not a bullshitter and a manipulator, which obviously producers have a bad rep of that. And that's what my strong suit is, I would say. Constant follow through, follow up. Like, it's what I'm always. There were a few people before me on Euphoria, and it's like when I showed up on Euphoria, and like, I would call the reps back and say, I don't have an answer, but I'm trying to get you an answer. Just that. That's all you need to do. Because that means you actually give a shit that they're waiting on you. You know? And so, like, just being really good with that. And to be honest, I've read so much nonfiction when I was assistant coordinator, production coordinator, and moving up about management and people and conflict management. I'm not always great at it, but, like, I try really hard to, like, continue studying that. Because it comes into play.
I'm the studio at the other end of it, so I was curious to hear what he was going to say, how they handled me with it.
You just so get used to what is going to scare people. You know what I mean?
But it's when you say that you call and you say I don't have an answer yet, but I'm still. I give that advice to people if they're an assistant or as an executive, whatever, that you do say that, and I never allow someone to say I'm working on it. Because that is the biggest bullshit response. I hate that. Like, be specific. But when you say when you come back, that it does feel. I can understand that. Yeah.
Also, like, what'd they say? Oh, they said no. How many times did you ask?
Right.
If you ask once, then that's not enough.
Right.
You know, it's like you get used to like what it's gonna take to get a yes, which is literally my job. Yeah. You know,
when you talk about producing, I made a movie with Night Shyamalan. And then one that nobody knows, that you don't know.
Which
called
one?
Wide Awake.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And years later, many years later, I was developing a cool thriller with him. And the woman who was the agent for the writer, it was a short story. She was a producer also. She wanted to be a producer also. And her deal took so long. It was so ridiculous. And I called her up and I said, you know what the definition of a good producer is? I said, getting it done, making it happen. And if you delay, something like that, it has its own energy and pace. It doesn't come back again. And, it doesn't matter with these deals because majority of the time the project doesn't happen and you've spent all this time making a deal, which is pointless in a lot of ways. So that's my experience. I don't know if this is the only kind of business where you make a whole deal and you don't even know if it's gonna happen or not.
Yeah, it's very unusual.
Isn't it?
I'm literally in the middle of that right now. I had to put in an email today, like, here's the terms when we get a real green light, but it's like, you know what I mean? You're like, you have to get ahead of it because it's like kind of affects the green light and the cash flow. Right. What are we going to spend before there's a guarantee we have a movie? And that scares everyone. It's just like sinking money into a business that may never open.
Right.
But you have to do it. Yeah.
Whose career is there some producer that you look at and whose career you sort of want to emulate? But, I mean, I don't know if you would feel that way because you're not the pigeonholed, but you really go, it seems like, to very different situations, different kinds of movies. I mean, certain producers are known for certain movies, or if it's a difficult director, or, there's a certain type. And
I mean, I'll say, like, I used to, right? I was obsessed with Amy Pascal for so long, right? Because she was
Well, in the studio, she's a version of the marketing Catherine
such
Hahn's
like a
character.
baller. Like, I remember that whole Moneyball story, like the last day of prep when Soderbergh was directing it, and she just pulled the movie and shut it down. And then, like, a year later, it comes back with, I'm totally gonna mess up who ended up directing it. And it's one of my favorite films. But like that. But like now that I'm a dad, somebody asked me this last night.
Well, it's Michael Lewis, New Orleans-born.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody asked me this last night at the center screening. It's like, how do you choose your projects? The biggest thing right now is like, is there a direct flight home on weekends?
Wow.
Right? So this business is not kind to parenting, marriage. It is not kind. And I fly home every single weekend unless there was like the shoot I just did. We had to shut the Manhattan Bridge down. You're not doing that on a Tuesday, right? So like we had to do it on a Sunday, right? So like, I couldn't fly home that weekend. And I went 3 weeks without seeing my kid, and you go 3 weeks without seeing your kid, and her voice changes, and she's half an inch taller. And so it sucks. And part of what my decisions are these days are, is there a direct flight? What city am I in? Luckily, I live in Atlanta. Lots of direct flights. When we were on Sinners, I flew home every Friday night and came back sometimes on Monday mornings and every Sunday night. You get used to it. I flew 52 times in 2024, and that drives a lot. Luckily, I've been getting lucky with like still prestigious directors and films and doing things that really still, it's the selfish, like, is it keeping me happy? But am I protecting the family financially as well as emotionally? And I mean, I'm just totally overshare. Like, I did not protect it emotionally in 2024. Like, Sinners was very challenging, and 6 days a week, and
Well, I was going to say, if you have a 6-day week shoot, you're not going home on the weekend.
yeah, and so like we didn't shoot a lot of 6-day weeks, but we had a lot of weather issues, which is can pose a problem in Atlanta and Louisiana with the weather when you're shooting that much exterior in the summer. And so that drives a lot. Like the next film I'm doing is in Europe, right? So you're like, oh my God, how am I going to manage this? Well, luckily, in the UK, there's a lot of bank holidays in the spring, so you can leave, I think, the UK at 4 o'clock. I can land in Atlanta at 9, take the red eye Sunday night,
That's
and
pretty good.
be on set Monday morning. And I did this on a movie in Italy, Atlanta to Rome. Over 12 weeks, I did it 6 times. So,
What movie? What was the movie?
Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney. I've done like, my relationship with her and Maud are the two, like in terms of cast, I've like really kept, and we're friends. And so I've done 3 things with Sid since.
Oh, wow.
Housemaid comes out in December. That was Paul Feig, Sid, and Amanda Seyfried. It's based on like a New York Times bestseller. It's a thriller. It's really good.
My friend was the unit publicist on that, but I'll talk to you about it privately.
Oh, okay.
Debbie. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fun. Yeah. I hope that answers the question, but it's what comes to me, and do you get to choose? I'm actually, I'll share something without fully sharing it. I'm talking to a filmmaker right now that's a very large, has a universe, that's all I'll say, right? And that's not something I would normally do, right? In terms of like the longevity of it, but it's one of those situations where I would likely be with this person for years. But they make 1 movie a year, spend the rest of the time at home. You have to consider that whenever you're trying to see your kid grow up. You know what I mean?
I was going to ask you that if you were to align yourself to a filmmaker.
It's a gig economy, so it's like you're chasing it. I've never wanted to be such a suit, but that's not fair.
I've been called a suit.
I know, but you need the suit. So
Right.
I don't want to live in LA. Granted, you don't have to anymore the way that you used to. Yeah.
I wouldn't move to LA, but now you
You
can
don't
work
have to.
anywhere. I mean,
And
a lot
so-
of people in Hollywood aren't even taking meetings in person still if you're there, that
I
they do
know.
it by Zoom. It's so crazy.
Yeah, no, it's like you lived in LA because you need to do generals.
Right.
And like everyone just does them on Zoom.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. It's just like really gauging what is the financial side of that deal, and will I be able to be at home during the week? and that drives a very large part of it. You know, one of the reasons why I'm taking this job in Europe, which I'm going to be away from my wife and daughter.
Yeah, how come you're doing that? I
for
thought your goal, yeah.
Well, you see where the business is headed, and a lot of it's headed to Europe, and that's why I need to. I've done one film in Italy. I've shot in London for a couple of weeks, but I've not done like a whole film there. You know what I mean? So I need to understand how it works over there, and I'm lucky that I'm even being considered as an American to go over there. They could just hire a UK person. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, if you're shooting in Italy or in Rome, it goes very slow. If you're like at a studio that they take the breaks for their coffee, for their espresso.
Oh yeah, the movie I made, it was great in Italy because like I was like, oh, I'm back home every night by 7.
Yeah, it's very livable.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just lost what I was thinking about. Yeah, but you can say that you want to be home and be with your family, but then you are considering this gig because for reasons. That's the nature of this business, is that there are a million different reasons for doing something or not doing it.
Yeah. Like, it's interesting. I was offered a series that was going to be in Atlanta, but it was one of those things where I would have had to have come home and start right away. So I was like, is that better, or me having this whole fall off at home, taking my daughter to school, picking her up, which I hadn't done all year, or just going straight back to work, right? So it was like, you work it out and you go, all right, this is actually better because I've been gone so long and we both need this, and it worked, you know? I've taken 2 vacations with my daughter in the last 6 weeks. I couldn't have done that, you know, so. And she's excited to come to Europe again, so to come see me.
Yeah, they get life experiences, but you know, it's people, for the longest time, you know, there were very few female directors. And when people talked about that, my opinion about that was it was before the cell phone and Zoom, and I think that women who had families, that they weren't able to be, because when you're a director, it's all consuming. And now with the phone, with technology, it's not as extreme as it would have been otherwise. And that's my theory. That's why I think, you know, it's changed so much as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
How long do we have here?
Till 12:15.
Oh my God, I have 45 minutes. I have to ask you.
So much time.
Wow.
We can also cut it short, and we can, if anybody wants, we can do a Q&A. I don't care. I'm down to roll.
I'm trying to think of, well, I was going to say, when you talk about a location, when Michael Caine he said that when he was deciding a script, he would open it up and they said, a rainy day in Paris. He's like, I'm in. Yeah. And there were some actors who really made their choices that way, where the location was going to be.
I got called to do something in Oklahoma, and I was like, oh, it's like, it was really like, there weren't a lot of direct flights, you know what I mean? And like, it made it it was too logistically challenging. And it was high profile. I was like, I can't do that. Like, I'll never get home. And also, it was the summer, it storms nonstop in Oklahoma. The flights are always delayed. It's like, I can't do it. And it was logistics.
Well, that's a very, very good situation for you to be in. I mean, that you have that option.
Yeah,
or
of
that
course.
You feel confident. Could you imagine as a little kid, you know, turning down work?
No. No, not at all. And the funny thing is, like, this summer was like July or August, and I was finishing this comedy in New York, and I was like, man, I don't have any offers for the fall. Like, what is going on? I panic. I think because I grew up with so little money, and doesn't matter how much money I make, I'm still in survival mode. I've had lots of therapy about that. And I was like, fuck, like nobody's calling. And then it's like, boom, 4 in like 3 weeks. And you're like, oh shit, I already got deep with this one. And like, you know, and you really don't know what to do, you know? And I don't mind chasing like the hustling, like movie after movie after movie after movie. It's also part of what makes it exciting, you know? Because like you don't know where you're going to be. I mean, in the last 3 weeks, I've been to Paris, London. I was in 4 countries in 6 days for this movie. Like, it was also fucking exhausting.
And then you get wired and with phone calls, and you're on different time zones.
Oh, when you're in Europe, it's like even right now, Atlanta, working from home, I wake up at 5, it's 10 in London, so I've already got a bunch of emails, and then I'm waiting on LA to wake up. So then at noon Eastern Standard, it's 9 there, and this is just all day.
Yeah.
It's all day. The best is when you're on the West Coast, because no one is calling you outside of West Coast time. You know, so just when you're in Europe, like, I remember doing Immaculate in Italy, still dealing with Euphoria stuff, and it's like, it's 1 a.m. in Rome, and it's 5 in LA or whatever it was, you know, and you're working 18 hours a day. Yeah. Which is very American of us. Yes.
Well, I did a lot in the UK. I was in London a lot. There was a time I was there every other week. And so I was having meetings during the day in the UK. Then I started my phone calls, and I got so wired that New York was done for the night, and I was doing LA calls, and I actually got an assistant in LA, like at an agency, to roll calls with me once because I couldn't get through it.
You can't keep up.
And then LA is kind of closing because you're so wired. So,
and LA's different. Like, it's so funny. It's like you can get a hold of people from like 10 to 12 Pacific, and then like 2 to 5.
I don't know if they do lunch anymore like that.
Like,
Do they?
I feel like they do.
I know. I don't
can
call
never
during those hours. I
get
don't call on
anyone.
Monday because they have staff meetings.
And then Fridays,
And Fridays are
everyone
dead,
either
yeah.
doesn't come in or
Right.
leaves at like at lunch. Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, you do a movie in New York, no one is doing that. Yeah, it's so different. Yeah, so different. Especially if it's an indie company and on the West Coast wouldn't probably be doing that.
right.
Yeah.
Maybe we should open up to. Should we open up to some questions, or should we? Okay.
I'll bring you the microphone if you raise your hand.
Thank you both for this discussion. It's been really amazing. Will, I have a question for you. I'm a producer of documentary films, and I'm working with a specific director, and we're finishing the sequel to the first film that we did together, and we're having some creative differences, and you know, we have a team of 4, and there's like 3 of us that think one thing, and the director who thinks something else. And I just want to get your advice on, you know, when you have a creative difference with your director, who I assume in most cases is the lead creative person, how do you influence them and get to a place where you can all agree?
I mean, sometimes you don't, man. You present all the options, and what you project the results will be from whatever the conversation is that the edit is that an actor. I did this, I won't share what it was. I did this movie, high-profile producer, very high-profile actor, pretty high-profile independent financier, and it was like every single suggestion we would make to the director, he would pick the other one. So then we just started to make the one we thought he would pick. So he picked the one we thought, and it was hysterical because it worked, you know. So he was just so anti the system and had never made a union film, and like, you know, so a lot of me guiding him was just kind of always acknowledging sometimes how impractical some of the things we could do would be, you know, and go like, I know this is very, very silly. Here's A, B, C, D, E, and Y, and kind of managing his personality that way. But it was really interesting. So you're going through all these casting tapes, and I was like, if we suggest this person, he's going to pick that person out of spite. Literally out of spite, right? Because he wants to like fight the system, you know. And so, and I was probably 10 years older than him. Like, I've been him. Like, I get it. I was very, very difficult with authority when I was like 30 and younger. So like, that was a really big example of like, you really kind of have to read and project what they're gonna pick. And sometimes realizing, man, I was making a big stink on the comedy I just did about something. I'll be honest, I was frustrated. So I was like I was taking it a little personal. And the other producer was like, no, this is the joke. And I was like, fuck, that is funny. But it was like I needed to really hear a different version of it, you know? And I was like, oh, you're right. That's really, we were spending so much money on this little beat, right? And I always, because my mom was really uneducated, there was not a lot of like life metaphor conversations. So I learned a lot of them through movies, right? And I still do that to this day, and sometimes it's hard for me to process. Like, but it's a speech Jonah Hill gives Brad Pitt in Moneyball. And it's like, on a comedy, you need to buy laughs, right? And so just like when he says, you need to buy runs in order to win, and you're trying to like buy wins without the runs. And so it was all these, hey Jolene, all these little beats in this comedy, and I don't do a lot of comedy, right? So I've only done 3. And I was like, okay. And I reread the script, and I started going, all right, boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? So when you do a horror film, you want to buy jump scares, because that's what makes it fun for everybody in the cinema, right? And it's very similar, and you really do put a lot of focus on those 2 things. Like I've done horror films where like if we're not feeling tense on set, then it's not working. If you're not laughing with somebody on set, it's like if the crew's not laughing, it's usually not working. You know what I mean?
When I read a script, I say, if I have to question whether it's funny or not, then it's not.
Yeah.
You know when it's funny.
And that beat I was talking about, we get to that night, you're just 2 months after I'm throwing a fit about it. And you see the angle, and you're like, oh, that's really funny. So then you're like relieved that you didn't not do it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you. My director is what you were saying. He's gotten to where he is because he's done it his own way.
Yep.
And so thank you.
Thank you both so much. Will, question. You mentioned early in your career sending out those resumes every Monday, and you mentioned as a producer your job is to get the yes. And so I wonder if there was ever a moment early on, like say in the first 10 years, where you took a big risk and it really like helped like jump you to kind of the next level, or at any point in your career.
There's some stories I can't tell that if we were having a coffee, I'd tell you. Oh, man. I would say that when you're coming up and you're like a PA and you don't have a lot of money, right? So like yes, I'll do that job and that job. I waited to do Django for like 4 months, and I was a little freaked out. Most people were like, no, you can't wait, man. It's like, Quentin does what he wants. You never know if this or that. And I'd gotten very lucky of how I got that movie just as a production coordinator, and it worked out. What that changed for me was up until that, and I don't want to say anything negative. Remember, you'd go up to Redbox, and you'd like see this movie you've never heard of with like Morgan Freeman, and you're like or Bruce Willis, or like some of those straight to DVD. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And now, look, a lot of that's streaming now. You're like flipping through Netflix, and you're like, I've never heard of this, and that's got so-and-so in it, which is fine. Like, that's the way the business has transitioned. But I was doing a lot of those, and those were just guaranteed income, and I waited, and what happened, I was like, in the way that I always describe it, it's like, you go to do a movie like Django, and it's like, I just use Taco Bell. So you've been eating Taco Bell, and suddenly you're at a 3-star Michelin restaurant, and you're like, oh my God, like I didn't know people were this fucking good, right? Like, how am I ever going to like be in this world? And what that does is like kind of shows you where to repurpose your energy at that level of playing it with the All-Stars. And that was a big deal, even though like you're like, oh God, that was nothing. But like at the time and the thought process and the stage you are in your life, it was huge for me and scary as shit. And then one of the biggest lessons I ever, standing up to a director, scary as hell. Not anymore, like I'm fine with it now, but like the first 2 times I was producing, like going to tell the director, no, I don't agree with you. Ugh. Am I gonna lose my job? And the first time it happened, and I remember saying to him, I'll tell the story because me and Jeff have talked about it. It was on Loving, which was the greatest experience of my life. We were making fake snow. I had done it before, and he hadn't. And when you're on set with your own eye, it really doesn't look great. Like, it just doesn't with your eye. But we were shooting on film, and we had snow blankets on a roof, and we had this very, that guy did not help me. He was this very quirky special effects guy, which makes sense when you meet them, right? And he's like spraying, it looks like soap sets, because it kind of is. And I remember I drove in a set, and I was like, oh my God, it looks fucking terrible. You know, and I was like, oh God, Jeff's gonna freak out. He's not happy. And we're having this conversation, and we'd stopped filming. That is not the first time I have stopped filming to debate with a director. And he was disappointed, as he should have been, because honestly, if you roll up and you're like, what in the fuck is that? You know, we can't shoot this. And I remember saying, like, look, we're an indie. We don't have the money to try to wait right now. You gotta shoot this. Like, you have to. In the meantime, I'm gonna go back to the office, and they're called the Snow Guys. They're based in Chicago. I'll call the Snow Guys. I'll figure out what it costs to bring them in for us to redo this. But why don't you just shoot this right now? And I remember while that was happening, I don't mean for the story to go on long, I had a situation with Jon Favreau 2 years before that. They gave me the courage to say those things. I was able to thank Jon Favreau later.
He's a tough one.
He is.
He's tough.
And I said, you got to shoot this, and I know you're upset, and the whole crew's behind me, right? My wife happened to be on the camera team, and I remember in my head going like, well, you know, this is what I always wanted. I got the director upset with me. That means I've made it. And it's like the song wasn't out yet, but it's like you want to be in the room when it happens, right? Like Hamilton. So it's like, I remember I left that conversation. I was like, I called my production engineer. I was like, oh my God, like I'm coming back to the office. We have to do all this research, spend all day. I'm armed with all the information, all the numbers. I go back, Jeff sees me, comes running across the set, hugs me, and is like, the sun moved, it went overcast, you were right, we shot it, it looks amazing. 6 months later, he's in post-production. By the way, this is rare. Directors don't send you emails thanking you in post. And he was like, you know, that was really helpful because I wanted to license this song that ended up being like 6 figures, and I was able to do that because part of our job is sometimes to protect the director from those situations because we're both seeing it from different angles, you know what I mean? And I also acknowledge, I remember that day saying like, look man, I'm gonna leave this movie and go produce another movie. You're the director. If this doesn't, you can, as long as it's reviewed well, he's fine. But if it's not reviewed well and doesn't make money, he's fucked. I'm not. So like, I brought that up in the conversation and I was like, I acknowledge what you're experiencing and I'm gonna try to protect you. And it worked out, you know? And part of my whole pitch originally was Prisoners. Prisoners shot in Atlanta, not in the winter, and there's snow everywhere. So I had spent so much time on it. John Adams had shot in Virginia and there was no snow. They made, you know, so like my whole pitch was legit. It just looks like shit with your own eye. That's it. Sorry. I went on for a bit.
Thank you guys for sharing your experience and knowledge with us.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Thank you guys for sharing your knowledge and experience with us. My question, sir, is you spoke about your resume when you first started out. Can you give us an example from your resume and how would your resume be different today if you were starting out?
If it was today, I'd probably have less credits in a short span of time just because there's less work. Like I was doing 3 to 4 films a year, moving up very, very, very quickly because of the explosion of tax credits. So like I think that would be a little hard to manage now. Part of this business is as much as we don't want it to be. It's chasing tax credits in America and honestly the world right now. And so it's why I move to so many different states so frequently. And it's easy to do that when you're young and you have no children or you have no like,
Life.
yeah.
And no life.
You have no life. You can just work 100 hours a week.
Right.
So that's easier to manage, but I think it would be very different now. Like I couldn't even tell you, like right now what I spoke at SCAD last week and I was like, New York, New Jersey is where all the work is because New York just passed a 40% tax credit if a studio spends $100 million on a 12-month calendar period. So like the movie I just did there is like I couldn't even find crew. It was hard. So that's how different it would be. It would be very different, you know, but you just have to like fight your way through it and find a way, I guess. Anybody else?
Yes, over
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Hey.
Oh, you.
Oh, me. First of all, I want to thank both of you guys for coming. In charge of programming and helping with all this stuff, you guys understand these are two very accomplished producers that have been doing this at the highest level in our industry for a long time. And so thank both of you for coming and giving your time.
I don't know if I'm the highest, but thanks.
Pretty damn high. You mentioned about picking jobs, and then a couple of people have asked you about independent projects, or you guys have mentioned about independent projects. Meryl and I talk, and she says, you know, I came up with Weinstein. We had to fight tooth and nail for everything that we had. And
Miramax.
Excuse me, Miramax. What makes you decide whether to work on an independent project versus taking a big commercial thing and a paycheck, et cetera, et cetera?
I mean, sometimes it's the money for the big movie, and can I get home? So that's real. I was kind of, I don't know if I was talking to you about it upstairs, but I'll just tell you, like, there's this independent film. I'm flying to Austin tomorrow to, I've been attached to this indie for 7 months. One of the best scripts I've ever read, right? So that right there. So, like, the script's amazing.
Has that writer ever written anything else?
Yeah, the director-writer's Annie Silverstein. She made an indie called Bull that got into Cannes and won an award in 2019. The bitch of it was during COVID. So, like, the movie kind of disappeared. And so she's great, the producer producing Sing, and it's just a beautiful script. And honestly, I'm choosing that because she lives in Austin, so Jeff Nichols told Annie to like reach out to Sarah, his producer, who then said, no, you should reach out to Will. He knows how to do these really, really small films. And we have been collaborating now for 6 months, trying to cast, raise money, and I'm not going to get paid on this movie, period. Like, ever, probably. But that is not even it doesn't occur to me because I don't care. I don't care because I think I've definitely changed since I've had a daughter, right? So like, I've only worked with one female director. I've worked with a lot of female producers. Like most of my producers have been women that trained me and taught me what I know. And I am doing this to help them because it's a beautiful story to tell. It's kind of out of my comfort zone as well. And even trying to make this film for only a couple $1 million is still challenging, you know what I mean? So, but I think the chase of that makes it exciting. Yeah, and it's just something that I wanted to do. The indie I did earlier this year was how I chose that. The script was great. It's the writer of Black Swan and The Wrestler, and produced by Aronofsky through his company. The script was great. It was in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is my favorite place in America. I own a house 20 minutes from Santa Fe. It just made sense. And I replaced somebody a week before the shoot. Sorry, before prep. And so my buddy needed help, you know what I mean? And so that was like, you need me, the script's good, it's got these people, it's a quick 8 weeks of my life, let's do it. I make those decisions pretty quick, but when you're married, you do have to check with people. So.
It's a serious question, I promise, Will. Hello, Will. I'm going to be serious.
Hold on. This young lady, Susan, was my office intern and
Yes.
then office PA. I don't even know
Yeah.
what year it was.
2014.
Yeah, there you go. 11 years ago. She lives in New York City now as an actor. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead, Susan.
Thank you, Will. I didn't expect the shout out. But this is a serious question because it moved me what you said about how you want to help tell stories that matter to you. And I've always wanted to ask, like, what is a moment, because you're a facilitator. That's how I see you. You take things and you make them happen. What is a moment where you felt that that gift of yours was making truth and honoring a story that that really mattered to you? Were you on set? Like, was it at a screening? Like, what's a moment you remember that your purpose was truly happening?
Yeah, it's funny because like going back to like all the indies I've done, where like you want to live a life of impact, even if you know own a restaurant or whatever you do. And I remember I was living here and I had moved to Atlanta, and then I got Assassination Nation, which brought me back to Louisiana, and then that filmmaker created Euphoria, right? But that film was really driven by me trying to make shit happen that I couldn't before and move mountains. Killing of a Sacred Deer, Yorgos's first U.S. film, which I shot in Cincinnati. It's crazy to think how inexperienced I was then, so inexperienced, and somehow still like figured it out. And that was, I knew I had a European filmmaker that wanted to keep the vibe of European filmmaking, but in America. And that was really a challenge. And I just did that again with Begonia last year with him. But it's really like finding a way through some of the culture of our filmmaking to keep him comfortable and his vision alive. And I feel like, as you say, you know me personally, so yeah, I'm a facilitator. I was able to do that and really see my own, impact. Hell, Sinners was like that, man. That was hard. But I would say that, Euphoria too, but like some of those smaller films where you're like, the funny thing is now that you say that, it's like when I go help a little movie, they know I'm gonna do a big one. Whether it's a year from now, so you can get a lot of free shit. I had this young woman I know, she's a writer, and she's gonna direct her own short. And she was like, I wanna shoot it on film. And I was, well, let me call Kodak. And so now I'm just giving her the film, you know? So if I didn't do Sinners and all this shit that shoots on film, they probably wouldn't do that. So it's not me being a bully, but it's like, yeah, sometimes I'm like, you need to help this really young woman do this thing. Like, it's the right thing to do, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Hi there. Thank you so much. Loved Sinners so much. You mentioned you're from Louisville, which is one of my favorite cities. Spent a lot of time there. And you live in Atlanta, and here we are in New Orleans. So my question is about Southern sensibility and projects, which is, you know, some of my favorite films are Southern, you know, Beasts of the Southern Wild, Fried Green Tomatoes, those kinds of films that have this Southern sensibility. Are you thinking about that as somebody from the South, like storytelling? If there were projects you could make, are you seeking out those kinds of things? Is that in your zeitgeist? Because I think, like you said, a lot of, you know, Hollywood, New York, there are those sensibilities. And there used to be a lot more, I felt, Southern storytelling, like Steel Magnolias.
Well, sure, we're dating ourselves, you're right.
Exactly.
But that
so
doesn't play the way it used to.
Yeah, so if projects came along that had that, would you champion those, or is that in your mindset? Because you are kind of different coming from Louisville and having that.
Yeah, that indie I was telling him about is set in rural Texas outside of Austin in the military vet community at a drop zone. So part of what's, I think everyone in life, you're reacting to every situation every single day from whatever environment you came up in and are growing as a person. Right. And so, like for instance, I went to the Begonia premiere in New York on Tuesday. That was about as Hollywood and as New York as you can it was at the moment. Like, come on.
I was invited and I had a previous thing.
Right?
I was so annoyed I wanted to go.
It was great, but it's like, this is for everybody here in this side of the business. You know, like, I always try to think, like, I know Kentucky is thought of as the Midwest, right? But it's like, are my friends back home going to go see this? Now, they go see shit because I work on it, right? That's fine. They're there to support me. But, like, what's going to get them out if I don't tell them to go out? So I think about that a lot. Or, like, can they relate to this? You know, there's, to be honest, like, I don't watch a lot of Taylor Sheridan stuff. Not because I'm just crazy busy. But there's an audience that he tapped into that no one was really tapping into, and that's why it's working, you know? So, like, for me, if someone's from Kentucky, like Lucky Chap, Margot Robbie's company, I work with them a lot, they paired me up with this writer-director because she grew up in Lexington. She's like an award-winning playwright in New York, a writer on Elsbeth, and I'm like, I don't even know anything. You just tell me what she needs if she's from Kentucky. Like, that's it. So I do focus on that a lot. I will seek that stuff out. I'll work for free. I'll do anything I have to do to, like, help people kind of tell a story from, I don't know, I guess what I can relate to. I hope that helps, yeah.
We have time for one more question.
Robert LaRiviere. I met you like 20 years ago. I don't know if you remember. Watching you, I just see so many people that you work with come up into UPM positions, you know, all of our friends who elevate by being in your orbit, which I know is that you...
Oh, my orbit.
Yeah, well, you know, it's you champion them. I know it's you championing these wonderful people, but I wonder also as a mentor what you like to instill in people so that they can elevate and be really great at their jobs.
I mean, I think I was looked out for by some really great people that took time with me when I was young and a production assistant, and I never forgot that and really nurtured me. And I can't not repay that favor. I feel like it's partly, I think Susan has experienced some of that with me. I think that it's my responsibility, especially as a leader, as a producer. There's going to film school, and, like, by the way, Robert and I just had breakfast and we were talking about this. There's a practicality of filmmaking that doesn't get talked about a lot of the times. And just really building those people up and showing them, I was really good at creating avenues and doors for myself and showing them how to do that. And it was done for me, and it's my responsibility to just keep doing that until, you know, I can't anymore, I guess. Yeah. That's why I do these things. That's why I'm flying to Austin tomorrow to help a movie I'm never going to see $1 on. You know, and feel okay about it too. And that's part of it, is like, I've got to feel good about it. And I know that sometimes taking a paycheck elsewhere is going to grant me the other side of that. And so it's really always like weighing, like, what's more important, and what am I going to gain from this to help other people coming up. I mean, I'm in the middle of helping 2 short films right now, you know what I mean? And I'm about to go do a big studio movie. So it's just like, I seem to never stop, which I'm lucky.
Unfortunately, that is all we have time for. Thank you so much, Will. Thank you, Meryl.
Thank you.